Howdy, my name is Jason Ott, County Extension Agent for Agriculture and Natural Resources here in Nueces County, and this week we visited with Dr. Megan Clayton about brush control. Dr. Clayton is a range specialist with AgriLife and covers the majority of counties in South Texas.
Thanks for joining us today. We're going to talk a little bit about the situation with our trees and whether or not we should treat them this coming late spring, early summer. Right now, as you know, we've received a little bit of rainfall. Hopefully you got some of that, but if not, there's another chance later this week or this weekend. What we really need to focus on is what the condition of our trees are, and specifically we're going to talk about mesquite. So mesquite trees right now have been blooming. They might be played out, but they might still be going in your area. This rainfall is also going to kick in a little bit more new growth on those leaves. So we have seen that the leaves are a limey green color. They're going to put on a little bit of new growth at the end due to our recent rainfall, if you did receive some of that. And so we want to wait until these leaves are a dark green color before we even think about treating them. These leaves right here are starting to become dark green, but the ends of them are all now limey green because of the new growth. So once we've got all of those leaves in a great condition, dark green, mature color, then we can go ahead and think about treating. Also, we need to make sure that our soils at 12 inches deep are at least 75 degrees. That way we know that this tree is actively growing. It's not still sitting somewhat dormant, and we know that it's in a good enough condition to take in that chemical in the leaf and take it down to that bud zone to kill the tree. And the other thing that we're going to look for is that we spray when they are either not flowering or not elongating a bean. So I know that's kind of difficult because a lot of times when you look in your pasture, your trees might be at different stages, especially depending on the size of the tree. But you want to kind of gauge that for when most of your trees are in ideal condition. So that's dark green leaves, not putting on any type of bean, and not flowering anymore. So we're probably looking at more like a late May, early June time frame. But as soon as these conditions align, I would encourage you to get out there and treat and make sure that you're getting them before your insects do. Our number one go-to, especially for individual plant treatments for mesquites, when they're in the right conditions like we just talked about, is to spray them with a 1% mix of Sendero. That's a chemical from Corteva. And Sendero is pretty much mesquite specific, so it does a nice job on our trees here. 1% equates to 1.28 ounces per gallon of mix. So you're going to put a little bit of water in your tank. You'll add in, if you're only doing 1 gallon mix, you would add in 1.28 ounces of Sendero. You would also want to add in a surfactant at 0.25%. So that's only 0.32 ounces per gallon, but very important because that surfactant is going to cut the surface tension and help that chemical to better get into the leaf so it can be taken down to the roots and kill the bud zone of that tree permanently. So in addition, if you're doing individual plant treatments, you'll want to add in a blue dye. We use that as simply a marker that's going to tell us that we've covered all of those leaves until they're wet but not dripping. And that blue dye is going to be added to our mix at either 1/4 to 1/2%, 1%. So that's only 0.6 ounces per gallon of mix. So you're not adding in a lot. You definitely want to make sure you measure it so you don't clog up your nozzles, but that's another important component. And then you'll just add water up to that 1 gallon mark or however many gallons you're making, and make sure it mixes really well and you're ready to go spray.